It's Children's Mental Health Week, and we're exploring the power of paying attention to what's going on inside, discovering clues from our thoughts, our feelings, and our bodies. Hello, I'm Kathryn Lovewell, author of The Inner Detective Journal, a gentle guide to help young children make sense of their inner world, especially when life feels difficult. We are shining a light on the importance of children's mental health, so every child has the opportunity to learn skills to respond to themselves kindly when things go wrong, which they inevitably will. So let's hear from one of our special guests now. So welcome to our wonderful next guest. We have for our Children's Mental Health Week, we have the wonderful Arjun Dave. Hello, Arjun.
Hi, how you doing, Kathryn?
Very good, thank you. So you may not know Arjun, but I have a great deal of affection for him. He is our boost away, trailblazing teacher in primary education that brought the pilot to life in a Surrey school last year and just did amazing things. So always forever grateful to Arjun for his amazing work. And he is now the creator of MindMaps Coaching, which is very exciting. Look out for him. So I thought he'd be a brilliant human to talk about children's mental health, as he has on the ground experience about why it's really important. So let's dive in. All right, Arjun, first question. What does mental health mean to you?
So I think for me, it's often link it back to sort of the pillars of well-being. So things like your physical well-being, your social well-being, professional, emotional, and mental. And I think for most adults, having balance across those five things is really important. And that mental side is obviously one part of it, but I think it's really linked to everything else. If there's something going wrong socially or physically with yourself, it's difficult to have that mental balance. So I think it's part of a larger structure that is really important to try and keep on top of.
Yes. And so with children, how does it impact them if that aspect of their well-being is out of balance?
Yeah, I think, again, so obviously kids don't have like the professional side, but their education is what they do on a day-to-day basis. And if there isn't a bit of purpose to their education, or if their mental attitude towards how they're going to be doing something is negative, that's really going to influence them all the way through, all the way through their education. One of the big challenges I think as a teacher is when you have a subject where children don't understand why they have to do it or what's the point, and they feel like they're just being forced through something that isn't going to serve them in any way. It's a struggle to have them be in a good mental space. I think one of the classic examples is like you do long division with like a year 5, year 6 class, and you see half the class sort of drop, and you can see that the way that they're approaching it is from that mental perspective of this is impossible, I'm never going to be able to do it, and it's horrible. And I think if anyone approaches anything with that attitude, they're going to find it more difficult than it needs to be. Even if it is challenging, it doesn't mean that it's not something that you can get through. And I think that mental well-being for children is in one element for that education side, having a bit more purpose for why they're doing what they're doing, and also learning that they can change their attitude and their approach to something that's challenging. So, you don't, if you see a maths question that you don't like, instead of telling yourself that it's impossible and that it's going to be really difficult and boring and horrible. And it's not just about being positive, but instead trying to find the right thing to focus on.
Yes. So that mindset piece really makes a difference, because obviously I certainly would see long division as a threat, not a challenge. And that would take me down the crusher pathway very quickly. That negative mindset that then generates self-criticism, generates judgment, generates that feeling, generates that attitude, creates that shutdown feeling that then obviously over time, that level of stress will really impact their mental health.
Yeah. And I often used to tell them, like, if you took something that you enjoyed and took the same attitude that you were doing to the maths and took it to something that you really enjoyed, you wouldn't enjoy the thing that you were trying to do. If you went for a free kick in football and you looked at the ball and you went, this is impossible, it's really horrible, I'm going to hate this, everyone's going to look at me, they're all going to be better than me, this is going to be terrible, and you went for that shot, you're much less likely to get it in. And to sort of start taking ownership of that and decide, all right, what would Booster do here and how do I go along that way, was a conversation that we had quite a lot whilst we were doing that program.
It's the self-talk, because it's hidden. No one can see it. I mean, we've got clues, haven't we?
Yeah.
So, talking about being an inner detective, what clues did your students give you? Because sometimes, obviously, their thoughts are hidden, their feelings potentially could be hidden, but their bodies might teach you. So, you already talked about the
Yeah.
slump.
Yeah.
What other clues, as that inner detective, but the detective in the whole class, do you feel are really big signs and symptoms that the child is struggling with their mental health?
I think oftentimes that relationship that you have with a class or with a particular child is going to give you a lot. Knowing whether they're acting in the same way as they have been for a while or if there's a big change is definitely something that can be a big warning. Having a child that's normally coming in and saying good morning every day suddenly come in and just sort of sit quietly in the corner is something that's a bit of a flag that might make you look and notice. I think generally speaking through the day, the sort of energy that you have as you're going through the class, through the classes and seeing how they're responding to what you're doing can give you different flags as well. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I think that's it's quite a big question because there's so many things that as a teacher in a room you're trying to pay attention to at the same time. And it's really difficult to do, but I really think the key part there is that relationship that you have with your class. The better you know your
Yes.
kids, the more you know when there's a change in something that's either positive or negative with them.
Yes, I think that's a really good point, especially when they're quiet, if they've shut down, because we can potentially miss the children that aren't being difficult, aren't exploding or leaving the classroom, but they may be in equally different but struggling with their inner thoughts and
Yeah.
some.
And it is difficult to sort of spin that plate of paying attention to the one that's trying to draw your attention and also making sure that you're paying attention to the ones that are trying to avoid you. Because they both need something from you at that time. And it's just trying to figure out how you can get them to either come and speak to you if they need to and know that they have a safe space to be able to do that. And whether that's you or someone else in school, having great TAs around and having other adults in the school that they know that they can approach is always really important as well.
Yeah, so that connection, that relationship, that sense of safety, they're
Yeah.
all really supportive. Yeah, absolutely. Really helpful to encourage a child to share that things are
Yeah.
difficult.
And that word just sort of sparked something. I remembered this line about connection, not correction, with a lot of
Yes.
kids. Like it's really good. I think that really matters because when you've got a connection, the same set of expectations that you have for a class, and you have a connection with them, works a lot better than someone else that comes in. Which is why I think supply teachers often get a hard time when they come
Yes.
in and they try the same
Yes.
expectations, but they don't have that connection there. It's difficult.
That's it.
Yeah.
Relationship really is everything. And of course, relationship with their peers as well. And then ultimately the relationship with themselves.
Yeah.
And obviously that's what we're really trying to do with the Booster Way, really help them develop those skills so that the more compassionate they are to themselves, then they can respond compassionately to difficult situations and to their peers. It's that wonderful ripple effect then.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, one thing you would do, back to you, Arjun, one thing that you do to help yourself when things get difficult, when you recognize that there's maybe some strain on your mental health and things are a bit stressful.
I've realized actually just recently when I got really angry about something and it's been on my mind and I was struggling to sleep and it's just sort of revolving around and around and taking a moment to just try and it's almost a meditative practice of just going, all right, what is that? And instead of engaging with it, just recognizing that it's there, just having that capacity to sort of disassociate from it, name whatever it is and try and figure out, where is this? Like, where is this inside me right now? Why is it there? And actually, the question that came to me the last time this happened was just whose anger is this? Because it doesn't,
Mm.
I got that space where I had been so engaged and struggling and sort of in it. And I just went, whose anger is this? Because I don't feel like it's mine. I know it's inside me right now, but whose is it? And when I asked that question, it just shifted my perspective on it. But I think that disassociating from what you're engaged in currently, and that doesn't mean not dealing with it. It just means not being the only thing that you can focus on in that moment.
Yes, and not getting sucked into the actual drama, the story of it, giving yourself that space and perspective to observe and, as you said,
Yeah.
name it to tame it and recognize this may not even be mine.
Yeah, yeah.
Really fascinating. Brilliant. Thank you, Arjun. Thank you for sharing that. And our final question is simply about, if you do find yourself with a young person or a child that is struggling in some way with their mental health, what advice, guidance, support would you offer them? What sort of things would you maybe say or do?
I think I really love having a framework or a tool that I can use. So a framework that I'll often use when I'm with a class is sort of these three questions: is like, what's the thing that you're focusing on? What does that mean? And what are you going to do about it? Because often those are three decisions that we're making at any given time. If you're struggling with something, like you're in a lesson and a child is struggling with writing something on paper, I've had dyslexic children that really struggle to get the ideas down. What are you focusing on? I'm not able to do this. What does that mean? It means that I'm silly or I'm dumb or I'm stupid, and all that self-talk that starts coming in. And what are you going to do? And that you can very clearly see that those three questions help shift how a child is approaching what they're doing. And if you can get them to state that explicitly and go through it, that's really useful. And all the way through, whilst we were doing the Boost Away program, having those as a tool, we had them up on the classroom board, and Booster was on one side, Crusher was on the other. There were so many times, especially by the end of having done it for a few months, where I could just sort of point in one direction, and they would realize immediately, all right, that's the tool that we're talking about right now. It's like, what am I saying to myself?
Yeah.
And it's so great visually to have that in a room or somewhere as well.
So it's really empowering the child to take those internal steps, to know that they can take charge of what's happening to them,
Yeah,
to give them the confidence, the scaffolding to say, oh, okay, first step, second step. Oh, I can change this. I can take action. And obviously, I firmly believe that self-compassion, if you've got Booster in your ear, then you've got that ability to ask for help, which is really, really hard when
yeah,
Crusher's loud saying, you're rubbish, you're no good at this anyway.
yeah,
And this is, of course, why being an inner detective, she says, is really important. It's about that, I love that you're offering them that ability to look for themselves, not telling them, oh, this is your
yeah,
experience, this is how you get out of it. It's just like, have a look, be that inner detective, take a look inside, what needs to happen to change
yeah.
this. Beautiful.
And I think it's
Fantastic.
amazing for kids to see that their reality isn't the only one. So, you have that thing where there's like a number 6 written, and you put it down and they see a number 9 and you see a number 6. And you can say, all right, well, you're right from your perspective, I'm right from mine. But, we can both shift how we're looking at this, and it will change everything, which is, I think, a really great. I think all of these things that are tools that you can use throughout when you're teaching, when it's not a high pressure moment. When a
Yes,
child is in distress, it's really difficult to try and teach them anything. At that point, you've got to be
absolutely.
able to step away and give them the space to be able to do whatever they need to, so that they can come back to regulation for themselves. Prior to that and after it, I think it's really good to have all of these different tools, and to be able to teach that to them. I think it's really important to be
Yes.
explicit about learning this, because otherwise you can walk through life without it.
Yes. And
Yeah.
what a difference it makes when you do know it, because these are lifelong skills. I keep saying this when I'm working with children. I said, I'm not doing brain training just for your football skills, or just
Yeah.
because there's some anxiety showing up about school, or just, I said, this is for life. This will
Yeah.
help you when you're going for your first date, or when you're going for your first interview, or your 10th interview, or going, to give a big meeting presentation. It's lifelong, and we need it, don't we?
Yeah.
Because our mental health it's not like, well, it's just like having a bath. You don't have a bath once and then there you are, nice and clean for the night,
Yeah.
lovely. But of course, by the end of the next day, I don't need a bath. I don't need, actually looking after our mind health, looking after our hearts and minds has to be a daily practice. And
Yeah.
I really love that offering of recognizing that if we can get these skills in place when we're not activated, triggered, stressed, upset, and dysregulated, then we've got a little bit more reserve
Yeah.
as and when it does happen, so that we can lean back, feel the support of those skills, and then hopefully we don't ever get to that point of crisis in the same way.
Or at
Amazing.
least when you do, you have some tools to help you get out of it
Yes,
instead of being lost in
absolutely.
it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation, Arjun, for our Children's Mental Health Week conversations. I really appreciate your time. Wishing you every success with that brilliant mind mapping coaching. MindMaps Coaching sounds absolutely wonderful, and we need those to build that inner strength to help us know where we're going. And I look forward to learning more about everything you're doing in the future. And I do hope that anyone that's been watching today has found this conversation useful, beneficial, valuable. I've certainly appreciated it. Thank you so much, Arjun.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Have you found this curious conversation helpful? The Inner Detective Journal might be just what you need. It's a gentle, powerful way to help young children build lifelong coping skills with kindness from within. Click the link to get your copy for your child, your class, maybe your entire organization if they've got children, so you can help them through the tough times. Let's keep listening and keep supporting children's mental health together.